Welcome to the Alchemist Nation Podcast. We are a community of business and real estate professionals who are on a shared mission to help every individual achieve financial freedom through right action, the right knowledge, and the right accountability. Join me, Andrew MacMurray, and my co-host, Mitch Jaworski, as we find and interview those who have mastered wealth and who have a desire to share their wisdom with you. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Alchemist Nation Podcast. We're here for another epic episode. I'm your host, Mitch Jaworski. I'm here with my co-host, Andrew MacMurray. Andrew, how are you doing today, man?
Mitch, I am fantastic. Great to be here with you. Great to be here with our guest as well. We have a special guest today, actually, Gualter Amarelo. Gualter's the grand architect of Alchemist Nation. So special kudos to him. I've known Gualter for a few years. He taught me everything I know about real estate, first off. And since then, I've watched this incredible journey. Now we're on a mission to build millionaires. Gualter's built, 25 millionaires? He's written the book, Broke to $250,000. You've written the book, Get the Deal, Real Estate Alchemist, 2-time Amazon best-selling author now. And now actually we're on a mission to expand across the country. You're building networking events across multiple states, multiple cities. It's incredible, man. It's been an amazing experience just to watch you continue to advance and take yourself to the next level every year, if not 2-3 times a year, it seems like. So how are you doing, man?
Wow, what a hell of an intro. I'm doing amazing. It's good to see you guys. I know you both very well, so I've been looking forward to getting back to this. It's good to be back on the podcast.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's definitely been a journey indeed. You know, what's been, essentially built over the last, several years, especially, but just over time is, awesome. But, let's rewind a little bit and kind of jump back towards the beginning. And, I know a lot of it started with real estate. So like, kind of just tell us like how your real estate journey, started, and then how that kind of lend itself to where you're at now and what you're doing, helping others.
So my real estate journey is kind of like everybody else. Except I didn't read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I had Googled everything around how to get rich, and I kept reading about this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, this guy Robert Kiyosaki, this purple book, and I just refused to read it. Kind of like I refused to listen to or watch Tony Robbins for like a decade. And unfortunately, I read like every other book, anything that the podcast Bigger Pockets would say read, I would go and read. So I was listening to Bigger Pockets while I was working at Johnson & Johnson, and at some point, like I did own a single family. So I guess I got into real estate through HGTV, right? My girlfriend wanted to buy a house. So I was like, okay, let's go do this. I ripped the whole thing apart. It took me 4 years, and we ended up flipping it. It was like a house hack, a live-in flip. And that seemed like terrible. It was a terrible 4 years, but like I literally took me 8 months to renovate. And I had at one point in my kitchen, we were sleeping in the kitchen because I'd ripped the whole floor to the upper levels. So I turned like the 3-bedroom into a 2-bedroom, and I made like this huge 1-bedroom on the one side, and then this other like little small office. But in order to do that, we discovered that the floors were crooked, and my uncle's a perfectionist, and he was like, we need to tear the whole thing apart. And then I didn't have a second floor. Wow. For like 6 months.
This story is not uncommon, though. I feel like, most guests, it's just first deal was kind of a hot mess and a learning experience. But you kept going, and that's the key. And most people like have one bad experience and like, oh, this doesn't work, I'm out.
It was kind of an accident, actually, how we kept going. Like I didn't tell my wife that I'd put the house on the market. Like I didn't even know I put the house on the market. I didn't really, like, just Zillow had this like thing where it's like, hey, how much would you sell your house for? And I was like, shit, I would sell it for $260, right? I bought it for $170. So a realtor calls and says, hey, I saw your house. You want to get $160? So like, I think $260, I think I can get you that. Can I come by Tuesday? I was like, yeah, sure, come by Tuesday. And I didn't tell my wife. And the realtor shows up, and like my wife at the time was like, what the F is she doing here? So she tells me basically that she's gonna make me 90 grand, right? So she puts the house on the market. I start looking at 3 families. I convince my wife we're gonna do a 3-family. We're gonna take the money, roll it, and just live rent free. And that was like the beginning of the end of that relationship. But the beginning of my real estate investing career.
There you go. Hey, was that circle of life, birth and death, and death and birth.
Yo, So she and I went through a divorce after buying 2 houses together. With our third house, she ended up saying, just I'm out. She split. I ended up cheating on me with my cousin, and went through a pretty dark time.
I mean, I
And
guess that's one way to get out of things.
Yeah, I realized she's probably not the one.
Makes sense. They want to invest in real estate, and then the other thing too.
Yep. So yeah, real estate was it. I would say it was probably the cause of the death of that relationship.
Okay.
I quit my job to help her build her business and buy more real estate. I had 25 grand saved 1 month, and then the next month I was in debt 25 grand because of the divorce. So it was like just mind blowing how like fast your life can change. So it was tough start.
End of the day, step one to change for the better and going, what seems like what was meant for you in the direction that, truly inspires you. So, I mean, so I know like, and obviously, we're friends. So I know about a bit of the history. I know you were able to start grabbing multifamily, you grabbed that 3 and then you started grabbing more in the town that you're from, and you kind of built up a portfolio. And then, with that portfolio, then you started doing like more so the agent side of thing, and then you had an agency at some point. And I think this is where kind of like your joy for teaching and helping others kind of started really getting going.
Yeah, that's true. So I was an accountant. I was an accountant before I got into sales, before I got my real estate license. I only got my real estate license because Brandon Turner was like, you need to get your real estate license if you're gonna be an investor. And I was like, damn, like I want to be an investor and like get access to MLS. So I got it, and like I told everybody I was not going to help anybody sell real estate. All my friends were like, "Oh, you can help me." I was like, "Nah, that's not why I'm getting it. I'm not going to help you buy a house." Like I was straight up so weird about having my license. I was like, "No, I'm an investor. I'm just using it for MLS."
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think a lot of investors get their license for that. We're not trying to make money with it. But later on, I read this book, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, as I was going through the divorce, and I quit my job, and like now I needed my license. And in Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, it says you got to get in the corridor and kind of work the business that you want to be a part of. So I just started working with investors. I said, well, if I'm going to be an agent and I'm going to make money, I'm going to work with investors and stay in this corridor and learn on their dime, like learn while making them richer. Like that kind of started it. And after about a year of that, I realized I hate being an agent. Like it was a year, I made $17,000. I'm an accountant, so I had like no sales skills. So I had to get sales skills. So my second year, I made 90,000 as an agent. I made 25,000 as an investor. So I went from like making 17,000 to 115,000 the second year. And after that year, I just realized, man, like I'm never going to do that again. I worked so hard. I was talking to so many people. I'm such an introvert. And like, so to be out there, like selling was like taxing to my soul. So I started hiring a team. I talked to my broker. I was like, hey, I read this book, the Red Book from Gary Keller. I was like the millionaire real estate agent. I want to run a team. Like there's a structure. And he was so cool. He actually drove down. He was an hour and a half away. He drove down and said, if you want to create a team and create an office, you can. I'm going to coach you through it. Like, here's the map. And he said, you're going to hire 15 people in year 1. Then year 2, you're going to get it up to 25 people. And then year 3, you're going to get up to 50 people. And then at 50 people, you can basically separate yourself from the brokerage, put a sales manager in place and step away. And he put the roadmap in front of me. So I did it. I was just like, all right, let's go. And year 1, I got up to 25 agents, and I had put a sales manager in place. My business partner later on became my business partner. We bought real estate together. I put him in as my manager, and I moved to Vegas. But I was training them every day. This is how I fell into training. I accidentally did. Like every Tuesday and Thursday, they'd come into the office. They'd have questions for me, and I just answer questions. And then eventually, like, it'd be nice if there was a structure to this. If like we knew in advance what we were going to be learning about and like how this was going to lay out. So I went and created a structure. I was like Googling like trying to anticipate what questions would be asked and like how to build a training around being a better agent.
Accidentally creating a training company.
Yeah. But I started taking that to recruit more agents. I used that training company I put together to recruit agents to be part of the team. So it was never really designed to make money. Agent Alchemist was the original name. Like Alchemist Nation was not in existence. Alchemist Connect didn't exist. It was just designed to recruit top talent, like people who want to help other people.
Interesting. So then what was the Vegas thing about? Because you said you built the team and then immediately moved to Vegas. Sounds
like it's about living life, living it up.
All right. So here's some things you got to know about me. One, I was homeschooled. Two, I was born in Fall River, a small town, like 86,000 people. And three, I didn't date my first girlfriend until I was 18 years old. And then I got married on my second girlfriend. So I missed a lot in life. No high school, no college. I didn't go to college. And so when I was 28 and I was divorced, I said, this is the time. I'm never going to get a chance like this. I'm going to live hardcore. I had previously started dating a woman of the night. Let's just say she had dancing skills.
Oh my goodness.
And she was from Las Vegas. So when she and I broke up, I still had like this kind of romantic vibe of Vegas. I'd spent a lot of time out there with her. And it was the only place I knew that I could definitely stretch my wings and like see what the world was. And that was how I chose Vegas. But I wrote a book out there. I left with intentions. I wanted to write a book. I wanted to do more yoga, more spiritual connection. I wanted to find my purpose in life because I'd crushed the game. I really had, like, financially, I was the biggest guy in the city. I had the most real estate in the city. I was in the top 10 of the real estate investors in the city of the residential side. And I needed a direction because I was complacent. I was feeling chill. I'd read a book that Donald Trump had put out. He said, think big and kick ass. And he put it out with Robert Kiyosaki. And in that book, he talks about how he messed up his life every so often. Like, he went out and he like partied, and then he'd come back and his business would be collapsed. So like he went, moved to Europe and just was like sleeping with all these girls and dating everybody. And I kind of wanted that experience myself. I guess I wanted to go and have this adventure, like made it in life. And I wanted to go and get some adventure. So that was why Vegas.
No, that's fair. I mean, but probably going out there and allowing yourself to expand in the way you did is what allowed you to come back and have all this room to grow into what you're growing into now. For sure.
That's where you got a lot of the focus from, kind of like origin stories I've heard you tell. And I mean, obviously broke to $250,000. I think, did you write it when you were out in Vegas?
Yeah, I wrote that book. Here's the interesting part. I dictated the book the week before I left for Vegas. I just dictated all my notes. I wrote it all down on a whiteboard. I charted it out the same way we do with books now. And I just dictated all my facts that I could think of because I knew Vegas was going to change me. So I sent it off to a copywriter and I had them transcribe everything that I had said while I was flying to Vegas. And then I spent the next 3 months working on the book.
Nice. And that's also, I mean, the whole, I don't want to say idea because I feel like idea is not even the right word, but just like building 100 millionaires. From what I remember, like that's like caught your spirit, caught your mind when you were out in Vegas, I believe.
So it came afterwards. The first hook was Tai Lopez. Tai Lopez, the 10X. I saw that he was going to be a speaker, and so I started following him. And this is the guy, the Lambo in the garage. And he said this year he's going to build 100 millionaires. And like, that's stuck in the back of my head. I said, man, like, that's cool. Like, I would like to be one of those people who's, in a program like that. Yeah. Now, I was a millionaire, but I wasn't an income millionaire. I was a net worth millionaire. And he was building income millionaires. I was really interested in it. But the plan we're operating now is what I built back in Vegas. The 100 millionaires came from a conversation with Darina. So she said, like, what are you going to do? What is your goal? Like, what are you going to do to, improve your life and make yourself like have a mission? And I said, I'd build millionaires. Like, that's what I do. So she said, how many? And I had never really put a number on it before. I just knew that I built millionaires. I knew that was, what my business did. And I said, well, I've built a few, because she asked how many I'd built. I said, I built a few for sure. I think 5 or 6 I could definitely state. And my business partner was 1 for sure. And then she said, well, how many are you going to do it? And I thought 10 was the first number because like I only had like 4 or 5 left to do. And then I said like Grant Cardone was in the back of my ear just saying 10X. And so a 10X, and I said 100. And when I said it and I wrote it on a board, I knew it was it because my heart dropped. Like, I feel like everything in my soul just said, oh my God, this is impossible. What are you doing? Run. Do not tell this girl you will do this. And then the word just came out of my mouth and I was like, I'm going to do that. And she was like, are you really? She's like, you're going to build 100 millionaires. And she said it like in complete disbelief, like trying to shit on my dreams and like as if it was impossible. And that somehow triggered something instinctually inside of me that said, yeah, of course I am. It's what I do. It just came out like now I latched onto this concept. But in Vegas, I'd actually realized I wanted to have positive impact on all landlords. I wanted to change real estate itself and make communities better, like I'd done in Fall River. In Fall River, in a single block, I kicked out prostitutes, kicked out drug dealers, got rid of the people who were doing domestic violence, beating each other up. Like, I just said, look, I can't stop you, but I also can remove you from my building so my families are safe. And I did that in a couple of blocks. And I wanted to, in Vegas, I realized I want to do that across all of my city. So I thought landlord associations. That's one of the things I built when I came back, was the Fall River Landlord Association. But also in Vegas, something seeped into my mind that I could potentially do this across all gateway cities, across all the depressed cities in the country. Because a coach of mine had said, man, you got to stop thinking so small. He said, you got to stop thinking about just Fall River. You got to get outside of your city if you ever want to build your city. If you ever want to really bring money into your city, you can't try to recycle everything that's already there. You've got to go get it from other places. And all these thoughts were out there in my head. Like, while I was out in Vegas, I was just thinking, like, man, I've got to build the greatest landlord association across the country. Because at first I was thinking I was going to do a property management company. That's what I messed up. That is what I messed up. When I came back, I thought I was going to build the biggest property management company. And somewhere along the lines, I realized that wouldn't be fast enough. A landlord association would be faster. Because I wouldn't have to own it as much. It wouldn't have to be as much ego involved. I could bring in other leaders. Like, it would just be faster to scale. And as long as I built a good culture around it, that would work. And it kind of sat on the shelf. I tried the property management thing first. I was listening to the universe, you know.
Sounds like a great idea on paper.
Yeah, man. I think at my peak, I had 12 businesses. We had 12 businesses running at one time. And I just realized I'm making no leeway on these things. Everything was pulling in about 100,000. Like, everything was like 150. Real estate was pulling in 600,000. So like I had the big monster, but then I had all these other little businesses just couldn't seem to get past this like 150 mark. And I was frustrated with it. And I realized it's because I was dissipating my energy all over the place. I had to focus, and I just asked myself, if I had to focus on one thing, what would it be? And originally I said, I'm just going to buy a ton of real estate. I'm just going to go buy $1 billion worth of real estate. And then the market dropped. Like, not the prices, just the buying opportunities. Like, what we're in right now is like, where are the deals? Nothing here. And that's where Alchemist Nation, it's always been the second thing we do, right? We build networks, we educate, we train, we build relationships whenever we can't find deals, because the relationships bring us deals. They bring us money, they bring us deals, they bring us partnerships. So anytime we're low on deals, we just go and we build our relationships. And we're like 3 years into building a lot of relationships right now.
Wow, but it holds true though with the whole, your net worth is equal to your network. I mean, you've seen it personally. I've experienced it, and there's deals that I've gotten because of my network. And, same thing with you. Just like opportunities pop up because of, just floating around within your network, and people think of you because they're like, oh, I know so-and-so buys here, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, and just speaking, like your network, because you speak at live events, I speak at live events. I raised $1 million from speaking at 2 consecutive events in 2 weeks. I just went to a RIA. I spoke about a deal. I spoke that I wanted a deal, and then the deal showed up in that event. And 2 weeks later, I went and spoke about the deal, and I got the capital raised for the deal. And it was just like, in that moment, I realized your network is truly your net worth. Like, I always kind of had a network just so I wouldn't be alone. Like, I just didn't want to be lonely. I didn't want to make mistakes. I knew there were opportunities out there, but it wasn't until I started like really going out to all the networking events, even inviting people in, like adding value to the other networking events, volunteering. Like, that's where I started getting the power of it. Like, the more I volunteered, the more I supported, the more I helped, the more people would just be like, oh, that guy is so helpful. Like, go give him that. He does follow, he buys real estate. Like, that's his thing. He's trustworthy. And I did not know its power, I think, even after those deals, even after, the condos. Like, I didn't know that was the deal. We made $3.5 million, 2.5 the day we closed, but then a year later, another $1 million on it. I didn't know. I couldn't trace back. I wasn't smart enough to realize that the network was how I got that. It took me a year to realize, like, that's, somebody asked me, like, how'd you get that deal? And I, like, many times I was asked the question. I said, yeah, I just spoke at this thing. I was just volunteering at this event. And it was like a year before we realized, dude, like, every deal ever has come through a networking event. All of them. except for, 08, 2010, we were just buying stuff on MLS.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there was a time where you could just buy things on MLS, numbers worked. So, but like you said, now, opportunity is not what it was. So it's harder to find deals. And it's like, you can find deals how? Usually through leveraging a network, because it's opportunity, whether it's, off market, whatever it is. But if you don't know anyone that is dealing in real estate, then you're not going to essentially have that opportunity. And this is why you network. This is why, even for an individual investor, you go to networking meetups, and you build your network, you build relationships. And, obviously when you speak at events, I mean, that helps it even more because now you're essentially connecting with the entire room. So I guess that's even more an efficient way to go about it. So that's, net benefits too, when you get to the point where, you're not only investing, but you're also teaching others how to invest. And, it goes back to that, just, you can get anything you want if, you help enough people.
Exactly true. And like, people underestimate how important being in front of others is. And they think you have to be in front of a group for a long period of time. I raised that capital by like 30 seconds. I was just in front of the room 30 seconds. I was not the main speaker. I was not the host of the event. They just gave me the opportunity to sponsor one of the events. And then the other one was, I was just the guy who introduced the guy. Like, that's all I did. I was the disc jockey. I just went up there and I invited the guys up. And all I did was say, hey, by the way, I got this deal that I'm interested. If, somebody wants to, connect with me, come connect with me afterwards. And that was it. Like, it wasn't complex. And like,
and it must have been a good deal too, because that's what I tell people all the time. Like, listen, don't worry about essentially, finding the money or getting the deal done. It's like, just find a good deal, because if you find the good deal, trust me, the money will find you, or it will be easy to find the money or the partner or whatever it is. Because especially now, because, good deals are like, they're a commodity.
It was a very good deal. I was buying these condos for less than 40,000 a piece, and they were appraised at close at 100,000. It was a good deal.
Makes it really easy to get it done when you got those kind of margins going.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think people miss that. So you're right. I definitely have been very blessed with deals, but I don't do a lot of deals either. Like, I just do one a year. My craziest years were like 3, 6. Like, those are crazy years. That was the beginning of the game.
Yeah. Well, there's so many different ways to go about it. I mean, I'm kind of targeted like that, where it's just like, I'm doing a handful of deals every year. I actually make probably way less offers than most real estate investors, because the only time I really make an offer is basically when I already have a line on a deal, as opposed to just blasting out offers, which is fine too. I know people that put in dozens of offers every week, and that's the numbers game, and do it right. So for me, I just, I guess, blessed that enough deals stumble along through my network where it's just like, I'm only making offers when essentially a deal gets, brought up on my radar. So there's no complete right or wrong way to go about it. But at the end of the day, you got to go about it, right? You still got to take action, still got to pull the trigger. And I think that's something that, we talk about a lot in Alchemist Nation, on your calls and just the calls of the community, is that you got to take action with this information, right? It doesn't matter what you teach people if they don't go and take action with that information.
Yeah, it's true. A lot of people, like even me, like I was going through all this training back in 2017. I was going through coaching course program. I spent almost $100,000 in a single year on I put it all on credit cards and just like different programs from coaches. And my income didn't move. Like, I made 300,000 in 2017, but my income didn't move until I stopped taking the course and I started applying some of the work. Like, I had all the notebooks, I had it all written down, and it was 2018 I started realizing, like, the only way to efficiently go to these events is to be texting people what I want done while I'm there. Instead of taking notes in my notebook, I started just sending off text to my team and saying, go get this done. We need this done. I need this done. I need it done. It needs to be like this. I would go out into the hallway. I take a quick little video, send it over, and just be like, this is what I'm talking about. It needs to be done like this. And that changed. So then I was able to go do more coaching and more training stuff because I was implementing almost immediately. Things are getting put into place. And most people don't do that, man. They just take the information, they put it on the shelf, and then they pray. They think that somehow the deals are going to come to them, or that the relationships are going to happen, or they'll have the money because they got, the shelf help, all the books on the shelf. They don't do anything for you.
Yeah. I think people just feel the need to plan a little bit, because what you're saying, it feels very intuitive, right? Like if it sounds like exactly what you should be doing, right? Just taking the immediate action as you feel to, as the thought pops in your head. But like, I think with a lot of people, I mean, even myself included, a lot of times I've seen is like, you want to make sure you have all the right information first. So like, you can't take immediate action because it might not be the right first action to take. You know what I'm saying? So like, I gotta finish the book, or like maybe I gotta read this other book that I was also recommended first. I think it's trusting yourself. You seem to really trust yourself and your inner direction of like, okay, yep, this is the next right thing.
So, that wasn't natural. And I'm just like that too. Like, it took me years of studying and reading before I honestly, I think it was podcast 86 on the Bigger Pockets podcast. Listened to them all, some of them twice, 3 times. I'd read like 20 books before I finally was like, oh, I can do this. Like, it was years before I finally went out and did that first investment deal. I had the single family, but I was in that for 4 years. I did not grow fast. I just kind of sat there and stagnated and was learning and building a base. And even with the base, I still was terrified. I still had no clue what I was doing. The only reason I did it is I had mentors. My realtor was an investor, had a bunch of real estate himself. And then one of the coworkers I had at Johnson & Johnson, her husband was a real estate investor. He owned 3 houses and was a property manager. And I felt so uncomfortable, but I like begged her to have lunch. Actually, she used to offer lunch, and I was like, no. I just said no. I was so scared of like being with somebody smarter than me that like my ego said no. So I wasn't even receptive to the information and the confidence. And then one day I was just like, oh my God, I've got to ask her. And she's like, yeah, of course. Let's go. Let's do it this Tuesday. I was like, Tuesday's too soon. Like I had so much going on up here that like this fear of actually taking action in my life. Like, I was actually afraid of taking action, of all levels of taking action. So the guy you see today who just does things was not the guy who started out. I was deathly afraid of things. I was literally afraid of everything and had to build a firm base through reading, through meeting people, through the mentors, through the guys. Like, my mentor showed me his properties, gave me addresses, like showed me, and when I could really see it was tangible, he's like, you want to drive by them? Like, because something I had said made him feel like it wasn't real. Like, I didn't believe him. And so he was like, do you want to drive by? Like, here's the ones I own. And he took me in his car to go and see his properties. And like, that created some sort of confidence in me. And he showed me like a couple property flips he'd done. And I just realized, like, this is not a lie. Like, this is real stuff. This isn't just HGTV anymore. Like, this is a real thing that real people do. So like, yeah, that's common, man. We have to go through that phase. I don't know how to get past it. Like, the guys who get into this business and just like shoot from the hip and like they're so confident and they don't take that time, I think they're the ones who get splattered on the windshield. I think they're the ones who get destroyed. They lose their asses. They jump in, they've been successful at everything they do. They get into real estate, they're just going to treat it like any other business. And when the market turns or there's a little hiccup in things, they just get absolutely flattened.
That is common in terms of like, because that personality type is kind of just like, ready, fire, aim, is great because generally scale up fast, but generally over leveraged. And when things turn or one misstep happens, it almost blows up the whole thing. And that's not to say it happens to every single person that functions like that, but the majority of people are, more just on that scared to take action, or just a little bit worried, whatever it is, as opposed to like just the gung-ho. Like, the gung-ho is the minority of the population, but with every blessing is a curse in a way, and it gets them going, but at the same time there's not, generally you don't see as much conservatism. So like, when things go the wrong direction, but yeah, you got to have, at the end of the day, you got to have faith, right? Because it's like, you don't know what you don't know, and it's just like, well, I got to take this first step. And if I don't, then I'm going to be in the same place I am now 1 year from now or 2 years from now. Right. And we always talk about it, there's like, if you wait for the right time, the opportunity is already past you.
Yep. In real estate's a unique business. I don't think people talk about this. They treat it like it's an investment, but it's not. It is a business. And in this business, you don't just buy a stock. You don't buy a house on a digital platform. You got to go through a freaking process that takes 30 days, 60 days, 45 days. And so the entire time your mind is eating away at how much of a failure you're going to be and how bad this is going to go and all the different things that could go wrong. Then you start telling your family, and all they do is validate that this is the worst thing you've ever done and that you're going to get destroyed having tenants and going to get sued and things are going to be broken. Like, you're not handy. You don't know how to fix this. You've never done that before. And it like that psychology, like I felt anxious every time I've ever bought a house, even like over a decade, 15 years into it. Like, I still get a sense of anxiety before I take the responsibility on of a new property. Like, it's always a new level of, like, my stomach is twisting. And I'm like, dude, do I want to do this again? Oh, like, I don't know anything about this building. Anytime you get into a building, they're never the same. It's different problems, different tenants, different issues. And even though we've got systems put in place to handle all of them, it's always this massive twist of anxiety every time I buy another building. Every time I put the deposit down, I'm just like, man, I can't believe I'm doing this again. Like,
I hear that.
I go completely broke, put all the money into something again. It's like, man, where'd all my money go? It's just, I don't know if anybody ever gets used to that. Like, it's anxiety inducing. It's terrifying. And the people who brag about being able to do that effortlessly, I think, are the ones who do get destroyed. I think that they're not taking seriously the responsibility they're taking on. My mentors always called it stewardship. We are stewards of the buildings. We're stewards of the properties. We're steward of the business, because we can't die with it. We can't take it with us. And somebody else will own it one day, because real estate outlasts everybody. And you just get like a little bit of time. You're going to steward it, take care of it. And you got to know when to get out too. You know when to get in, know when to get out, and know how much you can take on. There's layers to this thing.
It's a great point though, like the stewardship type thing, because, we know like real estate is one of the most forgiving, investments / businesses they're out there, right? Because time takes care of things. So if you take care of that property over time, it's generally going to take care of you, as long as you got into it, with, numbers that make sense. And, you did, just proper underwriting. So that's one of the things I personally love about real estate, is that, you can make a mistake and it's not going to end you, unless you put yourself in a position where you might be over leveraged or whatever it is. And then just any kind of market turn. And this holds true for any business, where you can't set yourself up where one little misstep is going to put you out of business. Right. That holds true even in day trading, like no matter what it is. Right. I guess it always goes back to the Warren Buffett rule. Rule number 1, don't lose money. Rule number 2, see rule number 1. Right. We generally going to make a habit in this podcast of asking people how Alchemist Nation has impacted their lives, and how it's, not just benefited them, but really just impacted their lives, or, what it's done for them and what they're excited about. So I'm not going to change that. We're going to ask you that question, even though you're the architect of Alchemist Nation. Clearly it's had an impact on your life, because it's been a journey building it. So, give us some of the goodies. How's Alchemist Nation really like impacted your life and, and changed things?
There's countless things that Alchemist Nation has done for me. The first, I would say, is the relationships that I've built with you and Andrew and the leaders of Alchemist Nation. Darina, my spouse, came because of the activity of me going out to networking events and doing what we do in speaking. It has been transformative. I've had to change from being a regular investor to a leader. It has made me look at activity, my time, differently. It's made me be a content creator. I've had to go and create content when I would much rather be writing the next book instead of doing a TikTok or a reel. It has certainly pushed me to grow at a rate faster than I normally would have in another company. And as far as the community, like that, I think is the easiest thing for me, is when I'm looking to meet a new person that, like, I've messaged them on Facebook, they're way higher than me, they're at a different level. I can invite them into Alchemist Nation as a person who could speak at an event, because I have some influence, because I run events. It's given me the opportunity to like bring a person in that I would not have been able to meet for coffee. Like, just because I could say, hey, do you want to speak at this event? Or would you like to come and check this out with me? And I'm talking like super high level players that just want to help. They just want to pay it forward. They want to give a little bit. And if I talk to a host on Alchemist Nation, say, hey, I got this guy, he's a multi-millionaire, every single host ever is like, yeah, cool, we'd love to have him talk. So I have this kind of in where it's allowed me to create relationships with really super high level players that are elevating my business. They become coaches of mine because I'm helping them get on stages, helping them, teach and do their things. The most impactful thing I think for everybody in Alchemist Nation is the 100 Millionaires Summit, which is something we do every year. We do it around the end of October, beginning of November, because we like to start our goals before the year ends, before the holidays start. I think everybody who goes into New Year's Eve and is like setting their New Year's resolutions, like a little drunk, a little full of food, is just thinking about, well, I got to lose weight. Whereas when we go into our New Year's resolutions before the holidays, we're thinking I got to make money because the holidays are about to cost money. And so we set our goals early and we start like driving towards them. The summit this year for me has gotten me to do the year of leg day. So I want to be on stage and be completely shredded and jacked. So that is coming up. I'm running out of time, but at the time
Two
we're
more
recording
months,
this,
that's right. 100 Millionaire Summit
100
2023
millionaires
happening in November. And I think that, for Alchemist Nation, that's kind of like the premier in-person event. Like there's an online community and an online forum and all that, and obviously there's the weekly Zoom calls. And for those that don't know, every Saturday there's 52 weeks to wealth principles, which is essentially just free value add. Anyone can jump on, and Gualter covers a different wealth principle each week, sometimes two in a week. And from there you can take these principles and kind of run with them, and talk about everything from the books that we're reading. There's a book of the week, and all that stuff kind of just culminates into the 100 Millionaire Summit, where everyone finally gets in a room together. You get to mingle with other millionaires. You get to learn from other millionaires that are on stage. Heck, there's even billionaires that are going to be on stage. So Orlando is an easy destination. So get on a plane, get in a car, come join us the first weekend in November. I think there's a simple link, right? What is it, like 1 million?
100mmsummit.com.
There you go. So we can drop links in the show notes.
Unlike Scaredy Cat Guide, you can just Google 100 Millionaire Summit, and it's the only thing that comes up.
We haven't talked about that. We haven't talked to my books. This show's about you, so I might have to bring it up in other podcasts. But cool, man. Yeah. So along with the 100 Millionaire Summit, what's the best way for people to kind of get involved with Alchemist Nation if they want to, start not only networking, but learning about real estate and just learning about building wealth?
So you go to alchemiststation.com, you go to Your Millionaire Path and just take the Millionaire Path survey. We give you a free report, and you'll know within 6 questions how to become a millionaire for you, specifically for you, based on your career, your income, your goals, your timeline. There's an option for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. So yourmillionairepath.com is probably the easiest way to get involved with us. From there, you can book a call with a community leader, or you just go to Alchemist Nation and find one of our 300 events across the country. You can volunteer at events. That's a really good way to add value to the community. It's also a really good way to add value to yourself.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. So, I know the local events are expanding. So, anyone that's interested in, building a network for themselves in their market, you essentially can run a meetup for, with Alchemist Nation, and have a platform to not only build a network for yourself, but also, start building credibility for yourself. Because I know this from personal experience. When you host an event, it does give you more credibility. And, at the same time, you generally get to connect with the whole room, as opposed to just, a handful of people that you get to talk to one-on-one, when you're just participating at a meetup. So anyone that's interested in that, definitely, reach out. What's the best way to go about that if someone was interested in running a meetup?
Yep. So if you're interested in running a meetup, you just go to alchemiststation.com. There's a big button that says launch a local group, and
Boom.
Hit the button,
Easy
dive
peasy.
in.
There you go. So yeah, that's a great opportunity. I think, when I first started networking and going to meetups, if there was something like that, I would have been like, hell yeah, let's do this. Right. Because, I saw that over time, because I was going to a local RIA, and then I ended up hosting it because the owner and host of it, was having some health issues, and I kind of took over, and I saw the difference in between being the host and just being someone that just showed up. like it was a game changer. So I think it's a really good opportunity for people, especially if they're just getting rolling and they really want to expand their network in their market, especially. So awesome stuff.
I like that you said that, man, because that's how I ended up taking over the Boston area too. Was I was just volunteering. I was volunteering. Their host left, and I volunteered, and I became the host for about 2 years before passing it off to the next person. It's just volunteering puts you in a really good position of like
and
opportunities.
showing up, right? Just showing up and taking action, right? It's like they always talk about, what is it, like 90% of anything is just showing up, right? You're just showing up and taking action. It was like I was showing up every month and I was networking, and next thing I know, it's like I published my book, Scaredy Cat Guide, Investing in Real Estate Properties, and then I was able to speak at she asked me, it's like, oh, you want to speak? I know you wrote the book or whatever, and I was like, yeah, I'll teach. I'm like, it's, I focus on long-term rentals. He's like, yeah, I think it'll be awesome. And after that, it was just like, all right, well, now I'm used to being in front of the room, and it just made sense. When the transition happened, she was like, I was the first person she thought of, because I was a regular at the meetup, and I'd spoken once before. So just natural progression, and, helped me build a network. And there's a couple people that I met at that RIA that, are mutual friends of ours. And, that's, how it all started. Like, I met Mitch Durfee because like he was at the RIA when I spoke, and, he came up to me. He's like, hey, he's like, how's your book doing? He's like, I can help it be a bestseller. And I was like, who is this guy? Like, what's going on right now? Right. And he's a fellow real estate investor and serial entrepreneur. And so it just goes to show you, by networking, you come in contact with people you otherwise wouldn't have. You make friendships you otherwise would not have, been able to come across. So just get out there, take action, network is the best advice I can give. I know you believe in it. And I mean, with that, you have any kind of final words you want to give to the people? Give the people what they want.
Man, I can just tell you that where we're going is huge. I've looked at the next 20 years for Alchemist Nation, and I've said the path is looking impossible. It's one of those targets. It's no longer just something small like 100 millionaires. I said I want to. I'm doing some really interesting meditation and obsessing over Elon Musk. I said, man, this guy took going to Mars. He took launching rockets, and he took cars, electric cars. He took solar power. He took tunnels, like all the cool stuff. I was like, what is left? And I realized like nobody's taken housing on the moon. So my 20-year goal is housing on the moon with everybody in Alchemist Nation. We want to be the company that's doing that. Prior to that, we want to build an epic city in the center of the country that allows some of these other outdated real estate pieces to just kind of get destroyed and washed away. Let the planets, the animals take back over while we go into a much more modern, futuristic city. And then sooner, I want to own $17 million worth of real estate in every single of the 300 major cities in across this country. So that's kind of where the 300 events started. And now we're working and investing with our community. So I want to own real estate with the community leaders and the volunteers and the members of each one of those major cities, so that we could just kind of start this going in that direction. So I want to own $5 billion with Alchemist Nation in the next 5 years. So that being said, if you're down to be a part of this, whether you've got the desire to manage that property, to bring us those deals, or you want to just passively invest into that real estate, that is what Alchemist Nation is about for the next, we'll call it 15, 20 years. Let's keep going.
I love it. Big goals, big, hairy goals.
You got it, brother. What else is there to do, right? What else are we going to do?
Right. Get busy growing and get busy dying.
That's it. We're dying anyway, so might as well grow while we're here.
Yes, but we still got some time, right? 150 years old.
Hell yeah. That's what we're working out, Mitch. Get those biceps,
yes, right? Got to keep getting ready for the summit. Got to look my best. That's awesome. 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 All right, cool, man. Well, we appreciate you being on. This has been an epic episode, and I think a great way to really, get the early stage of this podcast rolling. And the goal is for people to talk about the Alchemist Nation podcast the way they talk about the Bigger Pockets podcast.
I like it, man. After doing 150 episodes of Alchemist Nation's podcast, it's actually nice to be on this side of the desk. So.
Right? Exactly. Now
I appreciate you guys so much.
An early guest of the relaunch of the Alchemist Nation podcast. So, well, we appreciate you being with us, and to all the listeners, hope to see you at an Alchemist Nation event soon. And until the next episode, go out there and take action.